The smell of wet stone and rotting wood never left the cellar where I spent my childhood. Even now, years later, I can close my eyes and feel the dampness crawling up my spine, settling into my bones like a permanent cold. They say scent is the strongest trigger of memory, and whoever said that never lied. Every time rain falls heavy enough to flood the streets, I'm 9 years old again, counting silver coins in a stranger's palm while my mother looks away. 30 pieces of silver, that's what I was worth the day they sold me. Not because I was unwanted, though I'm sure that played a part, but because we were starving, and winter was coming, and my 3 younger brothers needed to eat more than I did. At least that's what my mother whispered when she braided my hair that final morning, her fingers trembling as they wove the pale strands together. "You're strong, Sarah," she'd said, her voice barely above a breath. "Stronger than all of us. You'll survive this." I didn't feel strong. I felt like a lamb being led to slaughter. The woman who bought me, Mistress Callan, ran a laundry house on the edge of the capital, where the city's wealthy sent their fine linens and silk garments to be cleaned by hands they'd never have to see. It was grueling work. My fingers bled from lye burns. My back ached from carrying water, and the other girls who worked there made sure I knew I was the lowest among them, the weakest, the one who'd been sold for the least. 30 silver, they'd whisper when Mistress Callan wasn't listening. That's barely enough for a decent pig. I learned to keep my head down, to work harder than anyone else, to make myself invisible. But invisibility, I would later learn, is both a curse and a gift. 16 years have passed since that day, and I'm still here, still washing the blood and wine stains out of Noble's clothing, still sleeping in the cramped attic with 5 other girls, still waiting for a life that feels like it belongs to me. My hands are calloused now, scarred in places where the lie bit too deep, but they're steady. Strong, just like my mother said. Tonight, the entire city buzzes with anticipation. The Alpha King is hosting the Lunar Gathering, a massive festival held once every decade where werewolf packs from across the realm come to pay homage, form alliances, and settle disputes. But more than that, it's a chance for unmated wolves to find their destined partners. The streets are packed with visitors, warriors with eyes that gleam like molten gold, women draped in furs and jewels, children running wild with excitement. And here I am, elbow deep in a tub of scalding water, scrubbing mud from a noble woman's hem. "Sarah!" Mistress Kalen's sharp voice cuts through the steam of the laundry room. "The Thornhaven delegation just arrived, and they've sent their garments ahead. I need those cloaks cleaned and pressed by sunrise." I glance at the pile she's gesturing to. Heavy fur-lined cloaks, at least a dozen of them, all reeking of travel and sweat. My shoulders sag, but I nod. "Yes, mistress." "Ma," she narrows her eyes at me, her thin lips pressed into a disapproving line. "And don't you dare ruin them. Those wolves don't forgive mistakes." Wolves. The word sends a shiver through me that has nothing to do with the cold. I've seen werewolves before. How could I not, living in the capital? But I've never been close to one. They move through the city like apex predators, all controlled power and barely leashed violence. Humans like me are beneath their notice, little more than scenery. As Mistress Kalen leaves, Brina, one of the other laundry girls, sidles up next to me, her dark eyes gleaming with mischief. "Did you hear? The Alpha King himself will be at the central square tomorrow night for the bonding ceremony." "So?" I murmur, focusing on the cloak in my hands. "So," she continues, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "They say he still hasn't found his fated mate. Can you imagine? The most powerful wolf in the realm, and no one's been able to bond with him." She sighs dramatically. "I'd give anything just to see him up close." I say nothing. What would be the point? Girls like us don't get to attend ceremonies like that. We're the ones who clean up after them. But as I work through the night, my hands moving automatically through the familiar motions of washing and rinsing, something strange happens. One of the cloaks, a deep midnight blue trimmed with silver, seems to hum beneath my fingers. Not literally, of course, but there's a warmth to it, a strange pull that makes my heart race for reasons I don't understand. I lift it to my nose without thinking, breathing in the scent caught in its fibers. Pine, steel, something wild and untamed, like a forest after a storm. My knees nearly buckle. I drop the cloak back into the water, my pulse hammering in my ears. What was that? I've washed thousands of garments in my life, but none have ever made me feel like this, like something inside me just woke up after years of sleeping. You all right? Brina asks, eyeing me with concern. Fine, I lie, scrubbing the cloak with more force than necessary. Just tired. But I'm not fine. For the rest of the night, that scent haunts me, curling around my thoughts like smoke, and when I finally collapse into my thin mattress as dawn breaks, I dream of forests I've never walked through and eyes the color of winter storms. The next evening, Mistress Callan makes an unexpected announcement. The Alpha King's household has requested additional staff for tonight's bonding ceremony, she says, her gaze sweeping over all of us gathered in the main room. They need servers, attendants, menial positions, but it's still an honor. I'm sending Brina Jolie and... Her eyes land on me, and I can see the calculation in them. She doesn't want to send me. I'm too valuable here, too efficient at the work no one else wants to do. But refusing the Alpha King's household isn't an option, and Sarah. My stomach drops. Brina squeals with excitement, already chattering about what she'll wear, but I feel nothing but dread. The idea of being surrounded by wolves, of being seen by them, makes my skin crawl. I've survived this long by being invisible. What happens when I'm thrust into the light? You'll wear the house uniform, Mistress Callan continues, gesturing to the plain gray dresses hanging near the door. Keep your head down, do as you're told, and for heaven's sake, don't embarrass me, as if I'd ever had a choice in the matter. The ceremony is held in the grand hall of the palace, a cavernous space lit by hundreds of candles, their flames casting dancing shadows on walls adorned with ancient tapestries depicting wolves and moons. The air is thick with the scent of wine, roasted meat, and something else. Something primal that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I keep my eyes down as I move through the crowd with a tray of crystal glasses, offering drinks to guests who barely glance at me. Brina was right. The gathering is magnificent. Wolves from every corner of the realm are here, dressed in their finest, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. And then I feel it. A pull. The same pull I felt with the cloak, but 1,000 times stronger. My head lifts of its own accord, my gaze drawn across the room to the raised dais, where the Alpha King sits on his throne. He's younger than I expected, perhaps in his early 30s, with hair as dark as a raven's wing, and a face carved from stone and shadows, but it's his eyes that steal the breath from my lungs, pale silver, like moonlight on snow, scanning the crowd with an intensity that makes me feel like prey. And then those eyes lock onto mine. The world tilts. The tray slips from my hands, glasses shattering against the marble floor in an explosion of sound that silences the entire hall. Every head turns toward me, every pair of eyes, human and wolf alike, fixes on the clumsy human girl in the plain gray dress, standing frozen in a pool of wine and broken crystal. But the Alpha King doesn't look away. He rises from his throne, his movements slow and deliberate, and I swear I can hear my own heartbeat echoing in the sudden silence. Someone near me growls low. A warning, but the king lifts one hand, silencing them immediately. Then he speaks, his voice a low rumble that seems to reverberate through my very bones. Come here. I can't move. My feet feel rooted to the floor, every muscle in my body locked in place as if turned to stone. The silence in the grand hall is suffocating. Hundreds of wolves watching, waiting, their predatory gazes burning into my skin. I'm aware of Brina somewhere behind me, probably mortified by my clumsiness, and Mistress Callan will have my hide for this humiliation. But none of that matters because the Alpha King is staring at me like I'm the only person in the entire room. I said, come here. His voice is softer this time, but no less commanding. It's not a request. It's never been a request. My legs finally obey, carrying me forward on trembling knees. I weave through the crowd, and they part for me like water, their expressions ranging from confusion to outright hostility. A human girl, covered in wine stains, being summoned by their king. I can already hear the whispers starting. Feel the weight of their judgment. The walk to the dais feels like miles. Each step brings me closer to those silver eyes, and with each step, the pull I felt earlier intensifies until it's almost painful. A tightness in my chest, a burning beneath my skin. Like my body is trying to reach for something it's always been missing. When I finally reach the base of the dais, I drop into the lowest curtsy I can manage, my head bowed. Your Majesty, I apologize for the disturbance. It won't happen again. Silence. Then I hear him descend the steps, his boots clicking against the marble with measured precision. He stops directly in front of me, so close I can feel the heat radiating from his body, smell that intoxicating scent of pine and steel that nearly brought me to my knees the night before. Look at me. I shouldn't. Every instinct screams at me to keep my eyes down, to remain small and invisible like I've learned to be. But my head lifts anyway, drawn by some force I can't name. And suddenly I'm staring into eyes that hold entire winters within them. Up close, he's devastating. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw covered in dark stubble, lips pressed into a firm line, but there's something else in his face. Something beneath the cold authority that looks almost like shock. What's your name? He asks, his voice rough. Sarah, Your Majesty. My own voice comes out as barely a whisper. His eyes narrow, studying me with an intensity that makes me want to disappear. Then, without warning, he leans closer, and I realize with dawning horror that he's scenting me, drawing in a deep breath near my neck, the way wolves do when they're trying to identify something. I hear gasps from the crowd. Someone snarls in disapproval. The king straightens abruptly, his expression shifting into something unreadable. For a long moment, he says nothing, and I wonder if I'm about to be thrown out. Or worse. Then he turns to address the room, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. The ceremony will continue. Resume your festivities. Just like that, the spell breaks. Music swells from somewhere in the gallery. Conversation resumes in hushed tones, and the gathered wolves reluctantly return their attention to one another. But I can still feel their eyes on me, curious and suspicious. The king looks down at me again, and this time there's something almost like confusion in his gaze. You work in the palace? No, Your Majesty. I work at Mistress Kellen's laundry house. We were sent to serve tonight. Something flickers across his face. Displeasure, maybe, or frustration. Go back to your duties, he says finally, his tone clipped. But don't leave the palace grounds until the ceremony ends. It's a dismissal, but it feels like something else entirely. Like a string has been tied between us, and even though he's sending me away, he's not quite ready to cut it. I curtsy again and retreat, my heart pounding so hard I'm certain everyone can hear it. The rest of the evening passes in a blur. I help serve food, refill wine goblets, and avoid the stares that follow me wherever I go. Brina corners me near the kitchens at one point, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and fear. What did he say to you? She hisses. Why did he call you up there? I don't know. I answer honestly, because I truly don't. Nothing about tonight makes sense. When the bonding ceremony finally begins, I watch from the shadows near the back of the hall. One by one, unmated wolves step forward, hoping to feel the pull of a fated bond. Some find their matches, the moment of recognition unmistakable in the way they gravitate toward each other, eyes glowing, bodies trembling. The hall erupts in celebration each time a bond is confirmed. But the Alpha King remains on his throne, alone, watching the proceedings with an expression carved from ice. He doesn't participate, doesn't even look interested, and I realize, with a sinking feeling in my stomach, that he's been searching for something, someone, for a very long time. When the ceremony finally ends near midnight, Mistress Kellen herds us back to the laundry house like wayward sheep. She's furious about the broken glasses. I'll be working double shifts for a month to pay for them. But beneath her anger, I catch something else. Fear, maybe. Or suspicion. Stay away from the palace from now on, she warns me as we walk through the empty streets. Whatever happened tonight, forget it. You don't need that kind of attention. But forgetting is impossible. That night, I lie awake in my narrow bed, staring at the ceiling while the other girls sleep around me. My skin still feels too tight. My heart still races. and every time I close my eyes, I see silver irises staring back at me. What happened in that hall? The question haunts me through the sleepless hours, until dawn breaks gray and cold over the city. 3 days pass. I throw myself into work, scrubbing and washing until my hands are raw, trying desperately to burn off the restless energy that's been coursing through me since the ceremony, but it doesn't help. Nothing helps. On the 4th day, a carriage arrives at the laundry house. It's unmarked, sleek, and black, pulled by horses that look far too expensive to be standing in our muddy courtyard. Mistress Kalin nearly faints when a man in royal livery steps out and asks for me by name. "Sarah?" she repeats, her voice climbing an octave. "You want Sarah?" The Alpha King requests her presence at the palace. The man says smoothly, as if this is a perfectly normal occurrence. Immediately. The other girls stare at me like I've grown a second head. Brina's mouth hangs open in shock. Mistress Kalin looks like she's trying to decide whether to forbid me from going or throw me into the carriage herself. I don't understand, I managed to say, my voice shaking. Why would the king want to see me? The man's expression remains neutral. I wasn't informed of the reason, only that you're to come with me. There's no refusing a direct summons from the Alpha King. We all know that. Mistress Kalin grabs my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "Don't embarrass this house," she hisses under her breath, "and whatever you do, don't make trouble." As if I ever have. The carriage ride to the palace is surreal. I sit on cushioned seats that are softer than my bed, staring out the window as the city rolls past. The man in livery doesn't speak, doesn't even look at me, and I'm grateful for the silence because my thoughts are spinning too fast to make conversation. Why does he want to see me? What could he possibly want with a laundry girl? The carriage pulls through the palace gates and into a private courtyard I've never seen before. Gardens stretch in every direction, meticulously maintained, filled with flowers that seem too beautiful to be real. The man opens the door and gestures for me to follow. He leads me through a side entrance, down corridors lined with portraits of stern-faced wolves, who all seem to be judging me, until finally we stop before a set of ornate wooden doors. "Wait here," he instructs, then knocks twice and disappears inside. I stand alone in the hallway, my pulse thundering in my ears. My hands are shaking, so I clasp them together and try to steady my breathing. The door opens, and there he is. The Alpha King, dressed more casually than he was at the ceremony, in dark pants and a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. His dark hair is slightly disheveled, as if he's been running his hands through it, and those devastating silver eyes lock onto mine with an intensity that steals my breath. "Come in," he says quietly. I step into what appears to be a private study. Books line the walls from floor to ceiling. A fire crackles in a massive hearth, and the scent of leather and parchment mingles with that maddening pine and steel scent that's uniquely his. He closes the door behind me, and suddenly we're alone. The silence stretches between us, heavy with unspoken questions. I keep my eyes down, waiting for him to speak, to explain why I'm here. "Do you know what a fated mate is, Sarah?" The question catches me off guard. I glance up at him, confused. "Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone knows. It's the bond between wolves, chosen by the moon goddess herself." His jaw tightens. "And do you know what it feels like when you meet yours?" My heart stops. No. He can't possibly mean, "It feels like gravity shifting," he continues, his voice low and rough. "Like every cell in your body suddenly recognizes something it's been searching for its entire existence. Like you could walk through fire if it meant getting closer to them." He takes a step toward me, and I instinctively take a step back. "That's what I felt when I saw you," he says, and the words hang in the air like a confession. "When you looked at me across that hall, when your scent hit me, pine smoke and rain, I knew." "Knew what?" I whisper, though some part of me already understands. His eyes bore into mine, fierce and unwavering. "That you're mine." The words don't make sense. They can't make sense. I shake my head slowly, taking another step back until my shoulders hit the bookshelf behind me. That's impossible, Your Majesty. I'm not a wolf. I'm human. I can't be anyone's fated mate. I know what you are," he says, and there's frustration bleeding into his voice now. I've spent the last 3 days consulting every scholar, every elder, every damn book in this library trying to understand how this is possible. And the only answer I keep finding is that the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. He runs a hand through his hair, and I realize with a start that he looks as unsettled as I feel. The great Alpha King, ruler of wolves, brought low by something neither of us can control. This can't be real, I breathe, pressing my palms against the shelves to steady myself. You're mistaken. It was just maybe the wine or the candles, or it wasn't a mistake. His voice cuts through my rambling like a blade. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I've spent the last decade refusing every eligible she-wolf in the realm just to end up bonded to a human? The words sting more than they should. I straighten my spine, lifting my chin. Then reject it. Reject me. I certainly didn't ask for this. Something flashes in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or respect. He studies me for a long moment, and I force myself not to look away. Even though every instinct screams at me to lower my gaze, I can't. He finally says, his voice quieter now, "That's not how it works. A fated bond isn't something you can simply refuse. It exists whether we want it to or not." Then what do you want from me? The question comes out sharper than intended, edged with years of being told I'm not enough, not worth anything beyond the labor my hands can provide. He takes a slow breath, and when he speaks again, there's something almost vulnerable in his tone. I want to understand you. I want to know how a human girl ended up being the one thing I've searched for my entire life. I'm nobody. I tell him flatly. I was sold when I was 9 years old for 30 silver coins. I've spent 16 years washing other people's clothes and keeping my head down. There's nothing to understand. His expression darkens. Sold? I shouldn't have said that. The last thing I need is his pity. It doesn't matter. It was a long time ago. It matters. His voice carries an edge now, something dangerous lurking beneath the surface. Who sold you? My family. Because we were starving. I forced the words out evenly, refusing to let emotion creep in. They did what they had to do to survive. I don't blame them. The lie tastes bitter on my tongue. Of course I blame them. How could I not? But admitting that feels like opening a wound I've spent years trying to keep closed. The king crosses the room to a small table where a decanter of amber liquid sits waiting. He pours 2 glasses and offers one to me. When I hesitate, he raises an eyebrow. It's whiskey, not poison. And something tells me we both need it. I take the glass with trembling fingers and sip carefully. The liquid burns down my throat, but it steadies me somehow. My name is Ronan, he says after a moment, settling into a leather chair near the fire and gesturing for me to sit across from him. When we're alone, you'll use it. I perch on the edge of the chair, holding the glass like a lifeline. That wouldn't be appropriate, Your Majesty. Neither is being fated to a human, but here we are. There's a hint of dark humor in his voice now. Besides, if what the bond suggests is true, formality seems rather pointless. Heat creeps up my neck at the implication. I take another sip of whiskey to cover my discomfort. Tell me about your life, he says, watching me over the rim of his own glass. Not the sanitized version, the truth. So I do. Maybe it's the whiskey, or maybe it's the exhaustion of carrying secrets for so long. But the words spill out of me like water from a broken dam. I tell him about the cellar, about my mother's trembling hands, about learning to make myself invisible because invisible girls don't get hurt. I tell him about the burns on my hands, the other girl's cruelty, the bone-deep weariness that comes from knowing you'll never be more than what you are. He listens without interrupting, his silver eyes never leaving my face. And something about his attention, complete and unwavering, makes me feel simultaneously exposed and seen in a way I've never experienced before. When I finally fall silent, he sets his glass down carefully. You say you're nobody, he murmurs. But I think you're the strongest person I've ever met. The words hit me like a physical blow. I look away, blinking against the sudden burning in my eyes. You don't know me. Not yet, he agrees. But I'd like to. We talk until the fire burns low and the sky outside darkens to full night. He tells me about the weight of leadership, about expectations that have crushed weaker men, about the loneliness of standing at the top with no one who truly understands. There's a surprising honesty in his words, a vulnerability I wouldn't have expected from someone so powerful. He tells me about his parents, both dead now, killed in a territorial dispute when he was barely 20, and how he spent the last 12 years trying to be worthy of their legacy. "Everyone sees the crown," he says quietly, staring into the dying embers. "No one sees the man beneath it. After a while, you start to wonder if there even is one anymore. I understand that feeling more than he knows. The girl I was before the sale, before the laundry house. She's buried so deep, I sometimes forget she existed at all." "What happens now?" I finally ask, because someone has to address the impossibility hanging between us. He's quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," he admits. "The council will lose their minds when they find out. The packs will question my judgment. There are laws, traditions, political alliances that all depend on me making the right choice for a mate. And I'm not the right choice. You're the only choice." His eyes meet mine, fierce and certain. "But that doesn't mean it will be easy. My world is dangerous, Sarah. Filled with wolves who would see you as a weakness to exploit. Fear coils in my stomach. But beneath it, something else stirs. Something that sounds almost like defiance. I've survived worse than political intrigue." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. "I'm beginning to see that." He stands, offering me his hand. "It's late. I'll have someone take you back to the laundry house." I accept his hand and rise, but the moment our skin touches, that electric pull surges between us, so powerful it nearly brings me to my knees. I gasp, and his grip tightens reflexively, steadying me. Our eyes lock. For a suspended heartbeat, the world narrows to just this. His hand in mine, the scent of pine wrapping around me, the way his pupils dilate as he struggles with the same overwhelming urge I feel to close the distance between us. Then he releases me abruptly, taking a step back. "The bond will only get stronger," he says, his voice rough. "We need to be careful." I nod, not trusting my voice. The carriage takes me back through empty streets, and I arrive at the laundry house well past midnight. Mistress Kaelin is waiting up, her face pinched with worry and suspicion. "What did he want?" she demands the moment I step inside. "Just questions about the ceremony." The lie comes easily after years of practice. She studies me with narrowed eyes, clearly not believing me, but she can't exactly call the Alpha King's motives into question. "Get some sleep. You're working the early shift tomorrow." I climb to the attic where the other girls are already asleep and sink onto my thin mattress. My whole body feels like it's vibrating, every nerve ending alive in a way it's never been before. Ronan. His name echoes in my mind, and I press my hand to my chest where something new has taken root, a connection I can feel even now, humming just beneath my skin like a second heartbeat. This is madness. This is impossible. And yet, as I finally drift into restless sleep, I dream of silver eyes and forests I've never walked through, and for the first time in 16 years, I don't dream of the cellar at all. A week passes with no word from the palace. I throw myself into work, trying to ignore the hollow ache that's settled in my chest, the bond pulling toward something that isn't here, leaving me feeling incomplete in a way I never noticed before. The other girls whisper about my mysterious summons, spinning wild theories that range from scandalous to absurd. Only Brina seems genuinely concerned. "You look different," she tells me one afternoon, as we're hanging sheets to dry, tired. But also, I don't know. Like you're waiting for something. She's more perceptive than I gave her credit for. "I'm fine," I lie. But I'm not fine. Every night I lie awake, feeling that invisible string pulling taut, wondering if he feels it too, wondering if he's lying in his own bed in the palace, staring at the ceiling, fighting the same impossible urge. On the 8th day, everything changes. I'm in the washing room, up to my elbows in hot water, when Mistress Kaelin appears in the doorway with an expression I've never seen before, something between terror and awe. "Sarah," she says, her voice strangely strangled. "There are visitors for you." I dry my hands on my apron and follow her to the front room, where 3 wolves stand waiting. Not servants this time. These are warriors, all hard muscle and controlled violence, dressed in the black and silver colors of the Royal Guard. The one in front, a woman with ice-blonde hair pulled into a severe braid, eyes me with obvious disdain. "Sarah from the laundry house?" "Yes." My voice comes out steadier than I feel. "By order of the Alpha King, you are to come with us. Bring nothing. You won't be returning." The room spins. Mistress Kaelin makes a sound like a strangled gasp. "What? Why? What has she done?" The warrior doesn't even glance at her. "That's not your concern." My heart hammers against my ribs. This is it, then. He's made his decision. Either he's found a way to break the bond, or he's decided I'm too much of a liability to leave walking around with knowledge of what I am to him. Either way, my life at the laundry house, miserable as it was, is over. I untie my apron with shaking hands and hand it to a stunned Brina. "Thank you," I tell her quietly, "for being kind." Then I follow the warriors out into the sunlight, into a carriage that's far more imposing than the last one, and toward whatever fate awaits me in the palace. The blonde warrior sits across from me, her golden eyes never leaving my face. "What's your name?" I ask, because the silence is suffocating. She looks surprised that I dared speak. "Cassian, captain of the King's Guard. Am I under arrest?" "No." Her lip curls slightly, though many would argue you should be. The threat hangs in the air between us, and I understand perfectly. I'm walking into a den of wolves who see me as prey, and there's no going back. The palace is different in daylight, where the night of the ceremony had cast everything in flickering shadow and amber warmth. The sun reveals every sharp edge, every carefully constructed surface. The carriage deposits us in a courtyard I recognize from my previous visit, but this time Cassian leads me through the main entrance. Massive double doors carved with wolves in various stages of hunt. The message is clear. This is their domain, and I am stepping into it at my own peril. We walk through corridors lined with portraits of previous Alpha Kings, each one staring down with varying degrees of severity. Cassian's warriors flank me, not touching, but close enough that I feel their presence like a constant pressure. Servants pause in their work to stare as we pass, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. "Where are we going?" I ask, hating how small my voice sounds in these vast halls. "The King's private wing," Cassian replies without looking back. "You'll be staying in the rooms adjacent to his." My feet stumble over nothing. "What?" She finally glances over her shoulder, and there's something almost pitying in her expression beneath the disdain. "He didn't tell you? You're to be prepared for presentation to the council in 3 days' time. Until then, you're not to leave the royal quarters unescorted." Prepared. The word sends ice through my veins, like I'm a thing to be polished and presented, not a person. We climb a grand staircase to the 3rd floor, then down another hallway that's quieter, more private. The walls here are painted in deep blues and silvers, and I catch the scent of pine even before Cassian stops before an ornate door. "These are your chambers," she says, pushing it open. I step inside and nearly forget to breathe. The room is larger than the entire attic where I've slept for 16 years. A massive 4-poster bed dominates one wall, draped in silks that look softer than clouds. Windows stretch from floor to ceiling, overlooking gardens that seem to go on forever. There's a bathing room attached. I can see the copper tub through the open door, and a wardrobe that's already filled with dresses I would never have dreamed of touching, let alone wearing. Is this some kind of joke? The words escape before I can stop them. Cassian's expression hardens. "The Alpha King doesn't make jokes. These rooms belong to his mother. He's ordered them prepared for you." She steps closer, her voice dropping to something dangerous. "But don't mistake this for acceptance. The king may be bound to you by forces none of us understand, but that doesn't mean the rest of us have to like it." Before I can respond, she continues. "Someone will bring you meals. A seamstress will arrive this afternoon to ensure the gowns fit properly. The king will send for you when he's ready." She moves toward the door, then pauses. "And Sarah? If you try to run, my guards have orders to bring you back. This palace is a cage dressed in silk and silver. Don't forget it." Then she's gone, and I'm alone in a room that feels more like a beautiful prison than a gift. I spend the first hour simply standing in the center of the room, afraid to touch anything. The girl who scrubbed floors and washed blood from silk doesn't belong in a space like this. It feels like a test, or a trap, or both. Eventually, curiosity overcomes caution. I explore slowly, running my fingers over surfaces that gleam with care, opening drawers to find them stocked with things I don't even have names for. In the wardrobe, the dresses are arranged by color, emeralds and sapphires, deep wines and pale golds. Each one looks like it costs more than I earned in a year. The bathing room steals what's left of my composure. The copper tub is large enough for 3 people, and there are bottles lined up on a shelf, oils and soaps that smell of lavender and rose, and something citrusy that makes my eyes sting with unexpected emotion. When was the last time I had a proper bath? Really proper. Not just a quick wash with cold water and harsh lye soap? I can't remember. A soft knock at the door makes me jump. A young woman enters. Human, like me, though she wears the palace livery. She bows slightly, her expression neutral. "Miss Sarah, I'm Elena. I've been assigned as your attendant." She gestures to the tray she's carrying. "I've brought lunch, and the seamstress will arrive within the hour." "I don't need an attendant," I say automatically. Elena's lips quirk in what might be sympathy. "Nevertheless, those are the king's orders. Is there anything you need?" "What I need is to understand what's happening, but I doubt she has those answers." "No, thank you." She sets the tray on a small table near the windows and withdraws quietly. I approach the food like it might bite. Roasted chicken, fresh bread, fruit that looks like it was picked this morning. My stomach growls despite my anxiety. I eat mechanically, tasting nothing, my mind spinning through everything Cassian said. Presentation to the council, 3 days. What exactly am I being presented as? The answer sits heavy in my chest. As Ronan's mate, as a human who somehow managed to become bonded to the most powerful wolf in the realm, they'll tear me apart. The seamstress arrives exactly when Elena said she would. A severe woman named Margot who studies me like I'm a particularly challenging puzzle. She takes measurements without speaking. Her touch is impersonal and efficient, then begins pulling dresses from the wardrobe and holding them up against me. "This one," she finally declares, selecting a gown in deep forest green. "It will complement your coloring." She helps me into it. I've never worn anything with this many layers, and then stands back, assessing. "You're too thin," she observes clinically, "and your posture needs work, but the bone structure is good." I'm not sure whether to be insulted or amused. She spends the next 2 hours teaching me how to walk in formal gowns, how to sit without wrinkling the fabric, how to hold my head, like you actually belong in a palace instead of a washing tub. Her words, not mine. By the time she leaves, my feet ache and my head spins with instructions. I'm certain I'll forget the moment I need them. Elena brings dinner, more food than I could possibly eat, and then draws a bath without being asked. "The king thought you might appreciate it," she says softly. The king thought. Despite everything, warmth blooms in my chest at the consideration. I sink into the hot water after Elena leaves, and for the first time since arriving, I let myself feel the full weight of what's happening. Tears slip down my cheeks, mixing with the lavender-scented steam. I cry for the girl I was, sold for silver coins. I cry for the life I knew, miserable as it was, because at least I understood it. And I cry because somewhere in this enormous palace, there's a man who's supposed to be mine by cosmic design, and I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. The water has gone cold by the time I finally climb out. He comes to me on the second night. I'm sitting by the window in a nightgown Elena laid out, silk and lace that feels scandalous against my skin, when I hear the door to the adjoining room open. A door I didn't even realize was there, hidden behind a tapestry. Ronan steps through, and my breath catches. He's in shirt sleeves again, his dark hair slightly disheveled, and those silver eyes find me immediately in the moonlight. For a moment, neither of us speaks. The bond hums between us, stronger now, insistent. "I'm sorry," he says finally, "for the way this was handled. Cassian can be overzealous in her protection. She threatened me," I reply, proud that my voice doesn't shake. "I know. I've spoken with her." He crosses the room slowly, like he's afraid sudden movement might spook me. "She won't bother you again, but she's not wrong, is she? This palace is a cage." His jaw tightens. It's protection. There are wolves who would use you against me if they knew what you were to me. And what am I to you? The question comes out sharper than intended. Your secret? Your weakness? The mistake the moon goddess made? Something flashes in his eyes, hurt, maybe, or frustration. You're my mate. Whether either of us wanted it or not, that's what you are. And I will protect you, even if it means keeping you locked away until I can ensure your safety. I've spent 16 years being invisible, I tell him, standing so we're face to face. I won't trade one prison for another, no matter how beautiful the bars. We're close now, close enough that I can see the war playing out across his features. The Alpha King, used to absolute control, confronted with something he can't command or conquer. What do you want from me, Sarah? His voice is rough, almost desperate. Tell me what you need, and I'll give it to you. I want the truth. I force myself to hold his gaze. What happens at this council presentation? What exactly am I walking into? He's silent for a long moment, and when he speaks, there's resignation in his tone. I'm going to announce our bond, publicly claim you as my mate and future queen. The words hit like a physical blow. Queen? The mate of an Alpha King becomes queen consort. It's tradition. I'm human, I whisper. I was sold for 30 silver coins. I don't know the first thing about being... Neither did I, he interrupts. When my parents died and the crown fell to me, I was barely more than a boy. I learned. You will too. And if I don't want this, if I don't want to be queen, or your mate, or any of it, the question hangs between us like a blade. His expression shudders, and for a moment, I see past the authority to the loneliness beneath. Then I'll let you go, he says quietly. I won't force this bond on you, but I need you to understand what you'd be walking away from. He reaches out slowly, giving me time to pull back, and takes my hand. The moment our skin touches, that electric current surges, stronger than before, almost painful in its intensity. I gasp, and his fingers tighten around mine. This, he murmurs, his voice dropping to something intimate and raw. This connection between us, it's not just attraction or convenience. It's written into the fabric of who we are. You feel it, don't you? The pull, the certainty. I do. Heaven help me, I do. Every moment I'm away from you feels wrong, he continues, stepping closer until there's barely any space between us. Every instinct I have screams at me to be near you, to protect you, to... He cuts himself off, jaw clenching. To what? I breathe. His eyes drop to my lips, and the air between us turns molten. To claim you in every way that matters. My heart pounds so hard I'm certain he can hear it. The rational part of my mind knows I should step back, should maintain distance, should not let myself get swept up in whatever this is. But the rest of me, the part that's been lonely and invisible for 16 years, wants nothing more than to close the distance between us and see what happens when we stop fighting the bond. Ronan, I whisper, and his name on my lips seems to break something in him. He pulls me against him, one hand sliding into my hair while the other wraps around my waist. For a suspended heartbeat, we're frozen like that, pressed together, breathing hard, teetering on the edge of something irreversible. Then he kisses me, and the world catches fire. The kiss is everything and nothing like I imagined. It's not gentle. There's too much pent-up tension, too much longing compressed into the week we've been apart. His mouth claims mine with a hunger that steals the breath from my lungs, and I respond with equal desperation, my fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him closer even though there's no space left between us. The bond sings. That's the only way I can describe it. Like every cell in my body recognizes this moment as inevitable, as right, as the thing it's been waiting for since I took my first breath. Heat floods through me, not just desire, but something deeper, something that feels like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. When we finally break apart, both breathing hard, Ronan rests his forehead against mine. His hands are shaking where they cup my face. I'm sorry, he murmurs. I shouldn't have... Don't, I interrupt, my own voice unsteady. Don't apologize for that. His eyes search mine, and whatever he sees there makes something in his expression soften. Stay. he whispers. Not because you're trapped, not because of duty or tradition. Stay because you want to. The question beneath the request is clear. Do you want this? Do you want me? I think of the laundry house, of invisibility, of a life measured in loads of washing and hours of sleep stolen on a thin mattress. I think of my mother's trembling hands as she braided my hair that last morning, of being worth 30 silver coins and nothing more. And then I think of silver eyes that see me, really see me, for the first time in my life, of a man who carries the weight of a kingdom, but looks at me like I'm the only thing that matters. I'm terrified, I admit, of the council, of becoming something I don't understand, of failing at this before I even begin. So am I, he says, and the vulnerability in those 3 words undoes something in my chest. I've faced down rival pacts, political coups, challenges to my authority. None of it scared me the way this does. The way you do. Why? He traces his thumb along my cheekbone, his touch impossibly gentle for someone so powerful. Because for the first time in my life, I have something I can't bear to lose. The words settle into my bones, and I realize with startling clarity that I've already made my choice. Maybe I made it the moment our eyes met across that hall, or maybe it was written in the stars long before either of us was born. Then we'll be terrified together, I tell him. The smile that breaks across his face transforms him, turns the cold, controlled Alpha King into someone younger, more human. He kisses me again, softer this time, almost reverent, and when he pulls back, there's a promise in his eyes. 3 days, he says. And then, everyone will know you're mine. The morning of the council presentation dawns gray and cold. Elena wakes me before sunrise, her expression sympathetic as she draws back the curtains. The seamstress will be here within the hour, Miss Sarah. The king requests you wear the silver gown. I've seen the silver gown. It's breathtaking. Layers of gossamer fabric that shimmer like moonlight, with intricate embroidery along the bodice that must have taken months to complete. It's also the most obviously regal of all the dresses in the wardrobe. A statement. This is what I am now. Margot arrives with 2 assistants and transforms me with ruthless efficiency. They style my pale hair in elaborate braids, woven with silver thread, paint my lips a soft rose, line my eyes with kohl that makes them look larger and more vulnerable than they are. When they finally step back, I barely recognize the woman staring back from the mirror. You'll do, Margot says, which I've learned is the closest thing to a compliment she gives. Elena fastens a delicate silver chain around my neck, a pendant shaped like a crescent moon. From the king, she murmurs. My fingers touch it automatically, feeling the weight of the symbol. The moon. The goddess who supposedly chose this path for us. Ronan appears in the doorway connecting our rooms, and the sight of him steals whatever composure I've managed to gather. He's in full royal regalia, black and silver, a crown of twisted metal that looks like branches resting on his dark hair. He looks every inch the Alpha King, commanding and untouchable, until his eyes meet mine, and everything else falls away. You're beautiful, he says, his voice rough with emotion. I'm terrified, I counter, and it's the truth. He crosses to me, taking my hands in his. I won't let anything happen to you. The council can posture and complain all they want, but ultimately the decision is mine. And I've made it. What if they refuse to accept me? Then they'll learn what it means to defy their king. There's steel in his voice now, the alpha rising to the surface. But his touch remains gentle as he lifts my hand to his lips. Ready? I'm not. I'll never be ready for this. But I nod anyway. The council chamber is circular, with high windows that let in cold morning light. 12 chairs arranged in a semicircle face a raised platform where Ronan's throne sits. Every seat is filled with wolves who radiate power. Pack alphas, regional lords, ancient families with bloodlines stretching back centuries. They all turn to stare as we enter. Cassian and her warriors line the walls, hands resting on sword hilts. The message is clear. This may be a council meeting, but the king's word is law. Ronan guides me to stand beside his throne, his hand firm on the small of my back. I keep my chin lifted, remembering Margot's instructions. Posture is everything. Show weakness, and they'll devour you. My lords, Ronan begins, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. I've called this emergency session to announce news that will shape the future of our realm. Murmurs ripple through the council, an older wolf with silver threading his beard. Lord Garrett, I remember from the brief lesson Elena gave me this morning, leans forward. What news, Your Majesty? Ronan's hand finds mine, our fingers intertwining. The moon goddess has blessed me with my fated mate. The reaction is immediate. Gasps, exclamations, a few muttered curses. Every eye in the room fixes on our joined hands with expressions ranging from shock to outrage. Who? Demands a woman with ice-white hair, Lady Morgana, head of the Northern Pax. Her name is Sarah, Ronan says calmly, and before you ask, yes, she is human. The chamber erupts. Wolves rise from their seats, voices overlapping in protest. Words like impossible and disgrace and abomination cut through the chaos. I force myself to remain still, to keep breathing, even as panic claws at my throat. Ronan doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. He simply releases my hand and steps forward, and the sheer force of his presence, the weight of his authority as Alpha King, silences the room more effectively than any shout could. I understand your concerns, he says, his tone measured but unyielding. This bond defies tradition. It challenges everything we think we know about how the goddess works. But I have consulted the ancient text, spoken with the eldest among us, and the conclusion is undeniable. Fated bonds cannot be fabricated or mistaken. What the goddess has joined, we do not question. Lord Garrett stands, his expression grave. With respect, Your Majesty, a human queen would be a weakness our enemies could exploit. She cannot shift, cannot defend herself, cannot even bear wolf cubs. Enough. Ronan's voice cuts like a blade. You speak of weakness? Let me tell you about strength. He turns, gesturing for me to step forward. My legs feel like water, but I move to his side. This woman, Ronan continues, his eyes never leaving mine, was sold as a child for 30 silver coins. She survived 16 years of labor and cruelty that would have broken most wolves. She carries scars on her hands from lie burns, and yet those same hands have worked harder than any of you have in your entire lives. She stands before this council, knowing full well you would rather see her gone, with her head held high and her courage intact. His words wrap around me like armor, and something in my chest loosens. If that is not strength, he finishes, turning back to the council, then you do not understand the meaning of the word. Silence falls, heavy and tense. Then Lady Morgana stands, her expression unreadable. The king speaks passionately of his choice. But passion does not ensure the stability of a realm. What assurances can you give us that this human will not become a liability? Before Ronan can answer, I find my voice. None. The word echoes in the quiet chamber. Ronan's eyes widen slightly, but I continue before I can lose my nerve. I can't give you assurances, I say, addressing the council directly. I can't promise I won't make mistakes, or that there won't be those who try to use me against the king. I can't shift into a wolf or fight your battles with claws and fangs. I pause, meeting Lady Morgana's sharp gaze. But I can promise that I will learn. I will adapt. And I will stand beside your king with every ounce of strength I possess, because that is what mates do. Something shifts in the room. Not acceptance, not yet, but perhaps consideration. Lord Garrett exchanges a long look with Lady Morgana, then addresses Ronan. The council will need time to discuss this matter privately, Your Majesty. Of course, Ronan agrees. But understand, I am not asking for your permission. I am informing you of a fact. Sarah is my mate. She will be queen. The only question is whether you choose to support this transition or stand in opposition to it. The threat hangs unspoken. Oppose me, and face the consequences. The council exchanges glances, a silent conversation passing between them that I can't decipher. Finally, Lord Garrett bows his head. We will convene and provide our formal response by sunset. Acceptable. Ronan offers his hand to me. Come. We're done here. We walk through the corridors in silence, Cassian and her guards trailing at a respectful distance. My heart still pounds, adrenaline singing through my veins. When we reach the private wing, Ronan dismisses the guards and pulls me into his study, closing the door behind us. Then, to my surprise, he laughs. A genuine, relieved sound that makes him look years younger. "You were magnificent," he says, pulling me into his arms. "When you said none, I thought Garrett was going to have an apoplexy." "I probably should have let you handle it," I murmur against his chest. "No." He pulls back to look at me, his eyes bright with something like pride. "You spoke from the heart. You showed them exactly who you are. That took more courage than most wolves possess." "They still hate me. Some of them do," he admits. "But others are intrigued, and that's enough for now." A knock at the door interrupts us. Cassian enters at Ronan's command, her expression carefully neutral. "Your Majesty, the Council has reached a decision faster than expected." Ronan tenses. "And?" "They've agreed to accept the bond on 3 conditions." She glances at me, and for the first time, I see something other than disdain in her eyes. Respect, maybe. First, that Sarah complete the traditional training required of all royal consorts: combat, diplomacy, pack law. Second, that the formal bonding ceremony take place within the month. And third, she pauses, and Ronan's hand tightens on my waist. Third, that she prove herself capable of navigating pack politics by successfully mediating a territorial dispute currently brewing between the eastern and southern regions. My stomach drops. "What?" "It's a test," Ronan says grimly. "They want to see if you'll fail." "Then I won't fail," I hear myself say, and I'm surprised by the conviction in my voice. Cassian's lips quirk in what might almost be a smile. "I'll begin your combat training tomorrow at dawn. Don't be late." After she leaves, Ronan cups my face in his hands. "You don't have to do this. I can refuse their conditions and undermine your own authority." "No." I cover his hands with mine. "I meant what I said in there. I'll learn. I'll adapt. I survived 16 years of hell. I can survive politics and training." "You're sure?" I think of the girl in the cellar, counting silver coins. I think of invisible hands scrubbing blood from silk. I think of every moment I believed I was worth nothing more than the labor I could provide, and I realize that girl is gone. She died the moment Silver Eyes found mine across a crowded hall and saw something worth keeping. "I'm sure," I tell him. "Besides, you're stuck with me now." "Fated mates and all that." He laughs again, and the sound fills something in me I didn't know was empty. 6 months later, the Eastern and Southern packs signed the peace treaty this morning. It took weeks of negotiations, countless hours of listening to grievances and finding common ground, more patience than I knew I possessed. But when Lord Garrett himself acknowledged that my mediation had prevented what could have been a bloody conflict, I felt something settle into place. Not acceptance, not entirely. There are still wolves who see me as the human who doesn't belong, who whisper that the king's judgment has been compromised by the bond. But there are others now who nod when I pass, who bring their disputes to me because they've learned I listen. Cassian has become an unexpected ally. The training she put me through was brutal. I still have bruises layered on bruises, but she never once went easy on me, and I respect her for it. "You'll never be as strong as a wolf," she told me after a particularly grueling session. "But you're clever, and you're quick, and that counts for more than most realize." The bonding ceremony was held under a full moon, with every pack in the realm in attendance. Ronan marked me before the goddess and all her children, and I felt the bond solidify into something unbreakable, a connection that transcends species, transcends logic, transcends everything but the simple truth that we belong to each other. Now I stand in the gardens behind the palace, watching the sun set over the capital. My hands, scarred from years of lie burns, rest on the stone balustrade, and I marvel at how different they look adorned with the silver rings of a queen consort. Ronan finds me there, as he always does. He wraps his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "What are you thinking?" he murmurs. "That I was sold for 30 silver coins," I say quietly. "And somehow, ended up here. Fate has a sense of irony, or the goddess has a strange sense of humor. He turns me to face him, his silver eyes soft in the fading light. Do you regret it? Any of it? I think of the fear, the uncertainty, the moments when I thought I would shatter under the weight of expectations. I think of council meetings where I had to prove myself again and again, of whispers that still follow me through the halls. But I also think of waking up next to him every morning, of learning that I'm capable of more than I ever imagined, of discovering that strength isn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about refusing to break when everything tells you to. No, I tell him honestly. I don't regret any of it. He kisses me as the last light fades from the sky, and I taste the promise in it of days yet to come, of challenges we'll face together, of a love that defied every odd to exist at all. I am no longer the invisible girl from the laundry house. I am Sarah, queen consort to the Alpha King, fated mate chosen by the moon goddess herself. And I am finally, beautifully, exactly where I belong.